Welcome back, everybody. Take a break with Stephen Shamus.
Alex, welcome back. How are you?
Wonderful. Every day.
I had to move out of my normal spot. I know there's still a blank wall behind me. I have to do something about it.
As someone has so much comic art, there's nothing on your walls.
Speaking of art, Alex, I'd say that 5 times fast, right? By the way, your doppelganger didn't get punished for jumping on the field during the baseball World Series.
Very odd. Very odd.
He did
but that's baseball, right?
People.
That's baseball. Nobody gets in trouble for anything.
So speaking of new art, I just got in an unbelievable piece from Ryan Kincaid. He did a variant cover to Punchline number 1. He sent me a signed copy.
Oh, nice. Ryan's a good dude.
Very, very cool. Mm-hmm. I can't get it CGC, but I can send it to CBCS.
Yeah, CBCS.
So he was kind enough to send me. So he sent me the prelim of the Punchline number 1.
Thumbnails, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll send it to you. We'll post a copy of it. And then the actual cover.
That's awesome.
How great is that? Punchline number 1. I saw it. I loved it. I emailed him. He said, you were first to ask me about it. So I was able to secure this piece. Alex, maybe what we'll do is maybe we'll make this a regular part of the show. Maybe I'll show one cool piece a week.
Yeah, it sounds like you get a bunch.
Yeah, I'm always ordering some new stuff here and there. So Alex, what do we got going on this week?
Yeah. Let's jump into some newer announcements. Kang, the Conqueror.
As for your questions, I am Kang, the Conqueror. I have come from the 41st century, traveling to this backwater time period for one simple reason: to eliminate you from the timeline.
Was announced for Ant-Man 3. Let's talk about Newsstand Variants. I know we talk about second prints and third prints a lot, which right now some of those TMNT second, third prints are going crazy. But let's talk about newsstands. Let's continue the conversation about comic cards. We talked about Marvel cards last week. Let's talk about the DC ones because there's a few sets out there that are a little rough to find. And let's talk about Ice Cream Man. Everybody's fun image Ice Cream Man best covers, I think, coming out.
It's such a clever story.
Yeah.
You almost wonder, like, how did no one come up with this before, right? Yeah. Like, sometimes it's just you're too clever for your own good.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, Alex, so what do you want to talk about first?
Yeah, let's talk about Kang. Kang the Conqueror.
So as we know, every time a new character gets announced for a television show, a film, a this, or that, whatever, all of a sudden it's like, boom, books that were like here are now here.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the origin of Kang the Conqueror, and we know that he's going to be in Ant-Man 3. We know he's going to be the villain. Do they make it a bigger villain? Do they make it tied into the larger universe? So talk to us a little bit about Kang the Conqueror.
I mean, this character has been around since the 60s. I mean, he first appeared in Avengers Number 8. He's been an FF villain. He's been an Avengers villain. He's been all around. I mean, in the FF comics, that he's kind of related to the Richards, because that's his real name is a Richard. So, this might be a way for them to bring the FF into the MCU. Could be. He's mainly an Avengers villain, but I mean, he's kind of popped up everywhere. I mean, he's fought everybody.
So you think this is really, because I was going to say to you, why now? Why that character? Why is he the next villain? And you think it's a way for Marvel to start integrating the alternate universes?
I wouldn't put money on it, but why would? I mean, that's an easy way.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I like you. By the way, I like your theory, Alex. Alex, you're pretty good at what you do.
Someone has to say it,
You're pretty good at what you do, Alex. All right. So, of course, you mentioned Avengers Number 8.
Mm-hmm.
First Kang. It's September of 1964. Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very old book. You're not going to see a lot of these in blue 9.8s. So let's go through it with you and where the pricing is now and where probably our fans out there are going to be most comfortable spending their money. But I think that right now it's a good pickup. It's a book that has always been expensive because people do have their runs of those books and they do collect them in certain tiered grading. So let's just go through it a little bit. There are 4 Blue Label 9.6s and I'm sorry. Let me start again. There are 4 Blue Label 9.8s. There are 0 Gold Label 9.8s. So I can't even imagine what a 9.8 would sell for, but it's probably in the tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. So let's sort of not talk about that. Then in 9.6, there are 14 Blue Labels and 0 Gold Label 9.8s. That also is a very, very low pop book.
Very much, yeah.
Then you get to 9.4, where there are 26 blue labels, and there is one gold label, probably Stan Lee, because Stan signed a lot of that stuff throughout the years. And then at 9.2, there are 36 blue labels and 0 gold labels. And that's probably where your pricing is going to start, right?
Yeah.
So 9.2 recently sold for about $4,300. A book in 7.5 is $2,200.
Not bad.
So if you're looking at a book, and by the way, some of the 7.5s and 8s, I really find, Alex, that if you're looking for what I call a clean copy,
right?
When I look for a clean copy, I look for copies with no major tears. I look for copies that have brightness on the covers. I'm okay with off-white, white pages on the 60s and 70s books. I'm not okay with it once you get past the 70s. I don't think off-white pages on 80s or 90s books, I think, no good to me. Yeah. So, you know, if you're looking at an 8.0, as long as it's a clean copy, bright colors on the cover, no missing coupons, no cutouts, no whatever, you know, I think if you can find a nice copy in the $2,500 to $3,000 range, I think that's a buy right now, and just sit on it for a couple of years.
Yeah, definitely, till the movie comes out.
Till the movie comes out, right? So then the next major Kang appearance is Avengers number 69. It's an unbelievable cover. It's also the first appearance of the Grandmaster, which was the character that Jeff Goldblum portrayed in the last Thor Ragnarok series. So, you know, that is a great buy. That book came out in October of 1969. Not expensive for a book from the 60s. And I think you're going to start, look, these 60s and 70s books, Alex, if the sports card market is any trend at all, these books are ready to explode. Yes. They do not exist in high grade. They just don't. You can get them in low grade because they did print a lot of copies. It's amazing to me how low sometimes you get these in low grade. I mean, I look at a book like Black Panther #1 from the 1977, and a 9.8 is $1,200. And if you get a copy that's raw, that's just kind of clean and nice, whatever, they're $80. It's like $80, right? It's crazy. So in any case, Avengers number 69, there are 10 blue label 9.8s. There are 0 gold label 9.8s. Forget it. It's low pop, super low pop. 9.6, there are 32 blue labels. There are 2 gold labels. And then in 9.4, there are 49 blue labels, 1 gold label. And in 9.2, there's 29 blue labels, 0 gold labels. And 9.6 recently sold for about $500. After the announcements, people are really looking to get $700, $800 on those books. To me, that's a great book. Also for Grandmaster, you know, also a character that was portrayed in the film. So that's also, I think, a good buy because it's such a great image, you know, of Kang.
Yeah, agreed.
And then the last one that I wanted to talk about today is this unbelievable Ron Wilson cover, Avengers number 129. Marvel seemed to hit the home run on number 129s because there was an Amazing Spider-Man 129 also, right? There's something about 129, Alex, that they got cooking.
That era of Marvel is just amazing.
Yeah. So November of 1974, it's an amazing, amazing Kang cover. There are 20 blue label 9.8s. There are 0 gold label 9.8s. It's about a $550 book in 9.8. To me, that's the buy. I would get it. It's 1970s. You're not going to see any more 9.8s pop up.
Yeah.
There are 33 9.6s in a blue label. There are 0 gold label 9.6s, and that's about a $200 book. So that book is also ready to explode. It is a great Kang cover, and I think when you start to see the great covers, that's what takes off when the movie comes out.
Yep.
All right, cool. All right, what do we got next on our list, Alex?
Yeah, let's talk about newsstands. I mean, we talk about second prints and third prints, but newsstands are a thing.
Right. So, Alex, you grew up in the 80s, right? Yep. And you bought your stuff in comic shops.
Correct.
Right. By the 1980s, there were a lot of shops, hobby shops open.
Yeah.
So that's where people went to go buy their comic books.
Mm-hmm.
So back in the 70s, people were buying their books predominantly on the newsstand.
Yeah.
So once the market split and they had this direct market and they really wanted to keep track of where the books were coming from, and also remember returnability was a factor. Then you could, if you had a barcode, you could scan it and return it.
Yeah.
They didn't have the POS systems, the point of sale systems back then for the barcodes. So when they would ship the books to the hobby shop, they would have a little Spider-Man head. They would have a little word balloon. They would have something to differentiate it so you couldn't scan it or return it back to a newsstand distributor.
Right.
because if I bought 20 copies, I can go buy them, go get them discounted and then return them and get money back for books that I never bought. Right, I got it. So here we are 25, 30 years later, and the books that were shipped to the newsstand starting in the 80s are impossible to find.
Yeah, especially in good shape, specifically in good shape.
Correct, because they used to have the spinner racks, and the way the spinner rack, the wire was on the spinner rack, you would see about half the comic, and then half the comic was in the spinner rack, and people would pull them down because a lot of newsstands would just stack different issues of different comics in the spinner racks.
Yep.
So people would peel it down and look behind and then take a copy from the back. So CGC does not break out newsstand versus hobby.
Right.
And maybe eventually they will. I don't know how they would go back and reconcile the pop reports. But I think anecdotally, there's been a lot of evidence to point to some books that have gone absolutely berserk. And you could just kind of see it just anecdotally, like if there's 20 copies of this one and there's only one copy of the barcoded one, people are fairly easy to say. It's fairly easy to say, hey, wait a second, this barcode one is much, much rarer. So we're going to kind of point out for you today the books that really have dramatically increased in value, that you're seeing a very big disparity between the hobby and the newsstand. Interestingly, today, they do have the POS systems, and the comics do carry the barcodes again. And typically, there's no differentiating factor unless they're a different price on the newsstand versus the hobby shops. And occasionally that does happen, right? I mean,
Walmart, there's the Walmart editions have different barcodes or a little bit of different pricing on them. But yeah, there's a very few, but there are. A few years back, there was like Ultimate Spider-Man graphic novels. I think Barnes and Noble had just a slightly different color on it instead of the regular one. So there are some slight variations.
Great. All right. So we're going to take you through some of these important historical issues of the ones that have really, really blown up. So the first one we're going to go alphabetically and then chronologically. And what you're going to notice is a lot of them revolve around Spider-Man. For whatever reason, that the Spidey books have just gone absolutely crazy. And I think a lot of it has to do also is you have these run collectors. And Amazing Spider-Man is one of those runs that, unlike Action Comics or Detective, where you would really need over $1 million to complete those runs, and it's 900 issues or whatever, because Spider-Man started in the 60s, completing that run is not completely out of the question. There are enough copies, even of Spider-Man. It's expensive, but even copies of Spider-Man 1 exist in enough of a quantity. I mean, to find an unrestored copy of the early Detectives and early Actions and early Supermans and Batmans is practically impossible. I mean, you're lucky if 4.0s and 5.0s unrestored show up. So those runs are very, very difficult. But people who grew up, that are now of age, that grew up reading those books, you can complete a Spider-Man run. And I think that's had a lot to do with it as well. Okay, so let's talk about Amazing Spider-Man number 238, the first Hobgoblin. That book has skyrocketed in the last few months. So anyway, it came out in March of 1983. And again, we don't have pop reports because these are only the newsstand versions, but these are known low pop books simply by anecdotal evidence of how rare they come up for sale. And to their counterparts, where you see 20 of one and you only see one of this one. Even in a lower grade, you don't see them. All right, so you have the Hobgoblin, which, by the way, I mean, I do think they're going to do something with the Hobgoblin at some point, right, Alex?
Well, yes. I mean, Ned Leeds is a character in the Spider-Man movie, but he's not the Ned Leeds from the comic book where he was a villain. But he did the actor that plays Ned Leeds lost a lot of weight and looks jacked. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, maybe they bring in the Red Goblin too, right?
We could do it all.
Yeah, so that book is selling for $2,000 plus today.
Wow.
The hobby version is maybe 11, 12, 1,300. So that's a very, very high premium for a newsstand copy of the book. And you can't even find it. You got to make sure it's got the tattoos.
Gotta love them.
Gotta have the tattoos. Okay. Next book is another pretty famous book, Spidey 252, first black costume, May of 1984. That book is $1,000 plus in 9.8 newsstand with the barcode. Can't find them, Alex.
No.
So I'm going to tell you something. When the shows start opening up again, or you're online, it might even be worth buying raw copies of some of these newsstand books. Just because I'm even seeing, even in the 9.6s and the 9.4s and the 9.2s, even those books are climbing if you have newsstand, because like you said, the newsstand copies tend to got get beaten up on those spinner racks.
Yeah, and a lot of the times, I mean, most people that are selling comics online know the difference between newsstand and hobby, but sometimes they don't, or they don't care, so they sell it as is, and you can get a good deal on a newsstand when they're selling it as just a regular book.
I had a friend just the other day, and this happens more than you can imagine at flea markets and other places. He sends me a picture from an estate sale. Hey, this guy had a box of comics from the 70s, and sends me some pictures. There's Black Panther #1. There's early Avengers, Taskmaster first appearance. How much are they worth? Well, that's very simple. Taskmaster Avengers with the Taskmaster first appearance in 9.8 is $1,200.
Mm-hmm.
In 8.0, it's $200.
Yeah.
And raw in that condition, it's $80.
Yeah.
Right. But if you could start putting together some newsstand copies of some of these books in the 80s and 90s, because the 70s people were buying them on the newsstands.
Yeah.
I think you'll start to see that there's some bargains out there. Yes. And again, when you find those estate sales and those flea markets, they will have newsstand copies in those piles, because it wasn't a serious collector like yourself who was going to a hobby shop.
Exactly.
Right? Because I only remember buying in hobby shops. Yeah. And I'm a little bit older than you. And you definitely only remember buying in hobby shops.
Yes. Yes.
Right? I don't remember buying off of newsstands. Yes.
I mean, there were some 7-Elevens that had them, but it was like a diamond in the rough. Oh, this 7-Eleven had a couple comics. It wasn't somewhere where you go and buy them.
Honestly, that's where I bought my Archies, the Digest Archies. That's where I bought the Digest Archies on the newsstand.
Yeah, well, the grocery stores still carry them. Like that's what they did. They have the newsstand.
You felt like a champ when the new Digest came out, right? Yeah. Oh, I got to get the new Digest. By the way, I think it was just 1 or 2 jokes that they just retold.
Of course. Yep. They had a board in the Archie offices. They were just like, okay, this was last year's jokes for this book. Let's do it again. Redraw it.
But we loved those books when we were kids. Love those books. All right, let's continue. This one is, I don't know where this one is going, Alex. I don't know how it started. I don't know where it's going. I don't know what's going on with it. But Amazing Spider-Man number 300.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy stuff.
May of 1988. Even hobby ones, 9/8 are selling for $4,500 right now.
Yeah.
The newsstand ones are closing at $7,500.
That's bonkers.
Can't get it.
That's crazy.
9.2s, 9.4s, 8.0s, 8.5s. If you see a newsstand copy, grab it, buy it, raw, whatever you got to do. Can't find them. And of course, that's the first Venom.
Of course, yeah.
Okay, now this book has been on a meteoric rise because it's the 3rd appearance of Venom, but it's the first Venom cover, which is 316. And boy, what a cover that is. June of 1989. The book has gone from, the hobby version has gone from a $400 book to a $900 book in just a few months. Jeez. But the newsstand is $2,400. Can't find it.
Yeah.
Can't find it. Even before that book took off, I had some copies. I didn't have any of the newsstands.
Of course.
What can I tell you? Okay. So the next book, which has also seen a meteoric rise because of the next Venom film, is Spider-Man number 361, April of 1992, Carnage. Again, Alex, this book is double in newsstand version. $1,200 for 9.8s.
And those are, I mean, the newsstands aren't easy to find, but the regular covers are pretty easy to find. They're not hard to find.
Let me tell you something. When we were ordering the McFarlane Spider-Man books, okay, those print runs were routinely well over 1 million copies.
Yeah, definitely.
Well over 1 million.
Yeah.
Today, there's no
maybe
quarter of that.
Yeah.
That's for like a big book with 1 million variants.
Yeah, right.
Okay, but Spider-Man was selling in the millions. Amazing Spider-Man. I mean, 316. I don't know where they print 2 million copies of that book.
A lot of them, yeah.
But and people were collecting.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
that was
people.
The 90s, yeah.
It was not like, oh, it got schmutzed up in my whatever. For those who don't speak Yiddish, schmutzed is like where you touch it and you got your fingerprints all over it, right? Alex, you probably have fingerprints all over your comic books.
Yeah.
Because you read them.
Yeah, I read them.
You schmutzed them
Not
up.
anymore, But
Not
yes,
in
back
order.
then, yeah.
Okay. So then the next one, the next book to take a look at, and this book became hot after the Spider-Verse film, of course. And in this character, man, off the Alex, what's going on? Right? Amazing Spider-Man number 365, August of 1992. First appearance of Spider-Man 2099. Now, I could swear that they printed millions of copies of this book.
Yeah.
This book, and remember, it had the hologram on it, which means that if it had a hologram, if it had chrome,
Collector's
if it
edition.
had foil, if it had anything, they printed the motherload on these books.
Yeah.
Alex, these books are $1,200 now. Newsstand. $1,200.
Nuts.
By the
Absolutely.
way, speaking of Spider-Man 2099, Spider-Man 2099, number one, Toy variant.
Yeah.
Forget it. Can't find it.
Yeah.
Can't find it. 9/8 are like $2,000 on that book.
Good gravy.
That character went from throwaway, Spider-Verse, hottest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Dollar
You
bin to
Alex, you couldn't give those
$20
books
bin.
away.
Yeah.
Peter Porker?
Yeah.
Alex, how did I not know that? Okay. The next one's going to shock you.
Those are all
Very,
pretty
very-
shocking.
That's what it is. Batman Adventures number 12.
Yes.
Okay. September of 1993, which it's hard to believe it's 27 years ago. But this character was hot right out of the gate.
Yep.
First appearance of Harley Quinn, of course.
Big
but
book.
the animated one, not the not the one that's part of the DC continuity.
Right.
But I will tell you, the newsstand copies are impossible to find. So whereas the hobby ones are selling for $1,600, $1,700, $1,800, the newsstands are $3,000 to $4,500. Can't find them because back then, kids were not buying those kids books off, and if they were all schmutz. I mean, a kid buying an animated book off the newsstand, get it. You can't find one in any condition.
Yeah.
So those books are
Extremely hard
impossible
to find. Yeah.
and not high print ones back then. The next one, I bet you had. I bet you bought this book when you were a kid. You strike me as somebody who would have bought this book. G.I. Joe number 21, the silent issue, March of 1984. The first Storm Shadow. Alex, that is a $3,000 book on the newsstand. You collected G.I. Joe, right?
Yeah, I have it. I think I have. I either have a later printing or like a super reprint, but I definitely have a 21.
Did you have Larry Hama sign your comic books or no?
I did not. No.
Why not?
I don't bring
Larry's
comics
the
up to the
man.
show. I just don't bring comics anymore.
But Larry is like the guy.
He's awesome. Yeah.
He's a legend too.
Yes. Yeah. An extremely amazing guy.
Yeah. Larry's awesome. And his Facebook, by the way, if you really want to be entertained, add him as a friend on Facebook or just follow him on Facebook because boy is he entertaining. he is a legend in life. He's a guy who squeezed every possible happiness that you could, like a lemon, like he squeezed every ounce you could get out of life. Larry squeezed. He's done it all. All right. The next one, of course, very, very famous, February of 1991, New Mutants number 98.
Big one.
The first Deadpool. The hobby one sells for probably around $900, $950 or so. The newsstand one, $1,500. That Deadpool character is hot, straight out. They printed a lot of copies of 98. Don't get
a lot of copies. Yeah.
But
New Mutants was pretty popular at that time.
New Mutants was very, very popular. Yeah. So that was a good one. This one has been popular for years. The Robin number 1 second print. That's just been a book that's always been in collector demand. It's been shooting up lately. January of 1991. That book sells for about $1,000. It's the second print. It's the newsstand. I think they just must have released it later because it wasn't really a second print. It was the only newsstand book was the second print.
Right.
So
and the first prints are extremely easy to find. They're not expensive. They're not worth a lot of money.
Alex, they printed those. Alex, they printed those by the truckload. I think I had a truck. That book and Legends of the Dark Knight number 1. Remember with
the multicolors? Yeah. The orange cover, the blue cover.
Oh my God. Alex, they backed the truck up on those.
Yeah.
They printed a lot of copies of those.
A lot.
A lot. A lot. All right, hold on. I got to get some water. All right. The next one is going to blow you away because they printed 5 million copies of this book. And it still sells, but not for that much. So Spawn number 1, May of 1992. A Blue Label hobby shop version is $125, $135. For some reason, the CGC Signature Series with the McFarlanes still do sell for between $400 and $500. I don't know why more people don't send them into the signings. Maybe they think they printed so many copies. That book does sell. Same thing with Spider-Man number 1. But you can't find the newsstand version. Can't find them. I don't know why. You just can't find them. $1,250 for the newsstand. And that's the one that people want.
These prices are just getting bananas.
Crazy, right? And then here we go again. Another McFarlane book. And then again, there's something about 90s and McFarlane where I think there's a lot of collectors out there and they're looking for something special and unique. And that's why they're starting to focus on these books. And I think that's what you have there. Is the gold Walmart book. That book was hot right out of the gate. They printed 5-6 million copies of the regular books. Walmart had its own barcode. They shipped these only to Walmart. And in Walmart, the books got destroyed.
Yeah.
I've seen, the book is rare. It's tough to find. It's not as tough as you would think. But I'm going to tell you, I've seen a lot of copies of the book destroyed.
Yeah.
It's Walmart.
Yep. A lot of 6s, a lot of 7s. No.
I've seen a lot. If you look around for that book, you'll see a lot of them are not in good condition.
Yeah.
So getting 9/8 is near impossible. I actually still think that book is undervalued. They sell for about $1,000. I think that book is poised for a massive run up because I just don't see there being a lot of those out there for years to come because they were Walmart exclusive. And by the way, that holds true with the trading cards too, which we spoke about last week. It's the Walmart exclusive packaging with the gold or the silver, or the red, the blue, whatever holograms they stuck in the packs. You're starting to see those skyrocket. This one you probably had, Alex. Star Wars number 1.
Never had a Star Wars number 1.
Never had a Star Wars number 1? July.
I've almost bought them. Every time I see one up, I'm like, oh yeah, maybe next time. And I've never bought one. Now they're out of my price range.
Wow, you're a baller. You're a baller over there.
If I sell some stuff behind me, I could maybe buy one.
Yeah, I hear you. So the newsstand version of that is about a $2,000 book. And then the last one is a fairly recent book. And I think the more recent you get, the harder the newsstands are. Although I do think people are starting to catch on a little bit. So they are running to the newsstand to get some of these books. But quite frankly, there's no newsstands open right now. There's nowhere to even go to buy these books, right? Which is Ultimate Fallout number 4, the first Miles Morales. A 9.6 recently sold for $7,500. 9.8 would sell for over $10,000. Hard to believe that a book just a few years old could be in that kind of price range, Alex.
Miles Mania.
I got it. All right, Alex, brings us to our part of the show, which is, I'm sure, your favorite part of the show.
Definitely my favorite part of the show.
Not in my normal room due to the drilling, due to an electrical fire outside. I'm safe. Everybody on the block is safe. Nobody got hurt. There was a manhole cover that exploded.
Happens in New York a lot.
They were jackhammering, so I had to move rooms. So here we are, and I'm going to give you your special introduction. It's Alex's pick of the week. Alex, what do you got for us?
Yeah, this week I want to talk about watches because I definitely got a targeted ad and I bid on it because I had to have it. Timex put out a Pac-Man anniversary watch. It's just a regular digital watch that has Pac-Man on the outside. Nothing fancy, but it's a nice watch, so I bought one for myself. But, you know, this stuff like this, the collectible or like comic book, cartoon watches has been around for a very long time. Watches in general are collectible. There's a lot of people that are watch people that buy vintage watches, new stuff. And, you know, superhero watches have been around since superhero comics. You know, once they started, even the 50s, once Superman came around, it was merchandising time. And, you know, Superman watches, you can find some vintage ones from the 60s, like the Dabs watches that are $200, $300, original boxes and stuff like that. And then like a few years ago, probably about 20 years ago, Fossil was doing a ton of watches. DC, Marvel, Popeye, cartoon strips. And some of that stuff is worth some money. You know, the vintage, you know, DC Direct Sandman watch is like $100. The Dabs Wonder Woman and Superman watches are $250, $400. The Fossil watches never really accumulated because just like comics, they made so many of them. It was a time where it was like, it's one of 10,000, and instead of numbering each individual, they all said one of 10,000 because they were all a one of a 10,000 group. So, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there, but I mean, watches are something that is a everyday wearable thing. So if you're thinking about a watch in the 60s, if someone wore it, it's going to break down, it's going to fade, it's going to break, someone's going to drop it, put it in the washing machine by accident. So, you know, it's fun. If you are a watch person, you know, look into it. I mean, like I said, the Timex Pac-Man watch is neat.
So my favorite ones are the Invicta ones. This is an interesting story. So Chris Evans was at our show in Chicago back in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
And what people may not realize is that people bring a ton of gifts for these guys, tons and tons and tons of gifts. And there's like hundreds of gifts piled up. And what we'll do is after the show, we gather all the gifts and we ship it.
Yep.
We ship it to their office. We ship it to their manager. We ship it to their house because, you know, they appreciate everything that people have done for them.
Bring it with them. Yeah.
They can't physically carry it on a plane, but we ship it to their house. We ship it to their manager's office. So I remember after that show in particular, his assistant that was with him comes up to me and goes, somebody got him one of those Invicta limited edition Captain America watches.
Oh, wow.
He wants it. He wants to like take it right now. He doesn't want it shipped to him.
Yeah.
So like of all the hundreds of items that he got, the one that he wanted with him was the Invicta watch.
Yeah.
The Captain America limited edition. So like that also goes to tell you how the perception of like you can see all these things all day long, but they love it. I mean, we have to ship back so many boxes you can't even believe it. I mean, Brie Larson, we shipped their boxes and boxes and boxes. The Bellas do something interesting where the Bellas, they spread it all out and they take they'll do like an Instagram story and they'll pan on everything. But people don't realize after the show how much shipping we have to do.
Yeah, right.
For each individual guest, we have to ship them boxes and boxes to their house or to their manager's office because they love all the gifts they get.
Yeah.
All right, Alex, what do we got next?
Let's keep it up with some DC cards. We talked about Marvel on the previous show. Let's talk about the DC versions.
So there's 4 sets that I'm going to single out that people should be on the lookout for. Mm-hmm. My favorite set was the 1978 Superman top set when it came out. To me, that was the first card set I collected. I collected that set before I collected baseball cards.
Oh, wow.
So in 1978, when that set came out, I think I was 5 years old. Those are the first packs that my dad brought home for me. If I did something good, if I got good grades in school, if I did a chore, if I did something, I would get a pack of Superman cards. And everyone's favorite card in that set is Clark Kent, Christopher Reeve with the American flag behind him.
Yeah.
To me, that's probably the single greatest non-sport trading card in the history of mankind. Now, obviously, people are Star Wars fans and whatever feel differently. The Christopher Reeve Superman flag card is the #1 card of all time. That's just
it's a good one.
That's me. That's a good one, right?
It's a good one. That's a good one.
That's a good one. Man, I wonder if Christopher signed any of those. I wonder if any of those exist signed.
I'm sure there's a couple. Yeah, I mean, he was around. I mean, go to like.
He would sign for people.
Yeah.
I don't know how many people got that card signed. I got to look for one of those. It's probably cost a fortune though. Okay.
Yeah.
So in that vein, there's really 4 sets that people should be on the lookout for, just because they're hard to find, they're hard to get, they're getting scarce, and I think that this is where you're starting to see some movement. So the first one was 1994 DC Stars Legacy, the Walmart boxes. Mm-hmm. Very, very hard to find. Those are about $400 a box right now. Very, very tough to find. 1994. I actually, when I started doing the research on this, I actually didn't even remember those. Like, I was like, wow, when did those come out? Which leads me to the second one, which I also didn't remember, because I do remember the Marvel cards from 94 and 95. Yep. I think that 94 DC Stars was probably a Walmart exclusive.
Yeah.
Was the DC Legends Power Chrome. And anybody who knows anything about 90s comic books knows Turok #1 and Bloodshot and all the chromes and foils and whatever. The Bloodshot Chromium cover, Alex. Come on now.
4 cases.
Everyone has a copy of Bloodshot #1 Chromium.
Yeah.
Okay. If it was Chrome, that was it. That was money. 93 Topps Finest came out, and that was it. So there's a DC Legends Power Chrome first edition. Those are worth about $400 a box. And I think what you've seen with the movement of Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! And everything else, I really think that this stuff is poised to hit.
Yeah.
The next one is the Alex Ross Kingdom Come box from 1996. Those are about 120. Those are the long ones.
Wide vision, if you want.
What we call the tall boys.
Yeah.
Those are about $120 a box. Again, you're starting to see those characters make a reappearance. You saw them in the Multiverse television show.
Yeah.
I think you're going to start seeing the different multiverse in the theaters, right? You're going to start seeing the different universes.
Black Adam has a lot of the Kingdom Come characters in it. Yeah.
Right. So I think that one's poised. I would keep an eye on that one. And then the last one is from 2019, the Cryptozoic Superheroes and Villains. Those are about $325 a box now. It's got all the major characters from the DC universe. Those are the four I would really keep an eye out for. And we'll update you out there. And if you think we missed anything or there's a fun set that you have, like the 78 Superman, just email us. In my research, I did discover that there was a Mexican version of the Topps made. They are impossible to find. The Mexican version of the Superman cards. It almost reminds me of the Venezuelan baseball cards.
Yeah.
That even in PSA 1s and 2s and 3s, very, very low grade, they still sell for a lot of money. These Superman cards, you'll see PSA 4s and 5s, and you got to buy them. They just don't exist. So, okay, great. Alex, what do we got last on our list today?
Yeah, let's talk about something new. Ice Cream Man.
Alex, are you a fan of ice cream?
I love ice cream and ice cream men.
What is your favorite flavor, by the way?
I do not have a favorite flavor. I all of them. If you had to put a gun to my head, I would say Neapolitan because there's 3 flavors in it.
What brand is that?
Everybody knows what Neapolitan is. You've never heard of it? Vanilla, strawberry, chocolate.
Oh, yeah. No, for me, it's either Belgian chocolate Haagen-Dazs.
You're a rum raisin guy, I feel like.
Nah. Or chocolate fudge brownie, Ben and Jerry's. Those are the kings of the ice. Those are the king and queen of ice creams right there. Okay. So Ice Cream Man.
Yeah.
This series came out of nowhere. It's written by W. Maxwell Prince, drawn by Martin Marazzo. The covers sell for an extraordinary amount of money in the art world. It was supposed to be on Quibi. We don't know what's going to happen with it now. It's got to get picked up. It's very, very popular.
It's an easy show, too. It's not, they don't have to do anything crazy with it.
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the books, and then you'll give a little background on the characters and what makes this character so popular.
Yeah.
It's not a family, fun, friendly, funny story. It's pretty serious business, right? So, okay. So January of 2018, Ice Cream Man #1. There are 205 Blue Label 9.8s. There are 20 Gold Label 9.8s. That's about a $400 book, right? Wow.
It's good.
The Fraser Irving variant cover, there are 84 Blue Label 9.8s. There are 5 Gold Label 9.8s. That's about a $350 book. The book to buy is a second print, which we always talk about. Came out a month later. There are only 15 Blue Label 9.8s. There are 0 Gold Label 9.8s. That book sells for about $300. I would try to buy those books raw because if you get those books raw, it's a very, very low pop book. It's only 2 years old. I don't know how many they printed. Yeah, get them pressed and try to get 9/8 on those. And then just recently, September of 2020, the Ice Cream Man Quarantine Comics Special #1 came out. They issued a 1 per store variant foil. I think there's probably a couple, maybe 2,000, 3,000 hobby shops now, Alex? Something like that, right?
Give or take.
So it's a very, very limited cover. There are 27 Blue Label 9.8s. There are 0 Gold Label 9.8s, and that's about a $450 book.
Yeah.
So also, if you go to your retailer and they got a copy and you get a raw copy, raws, I think I see them for $60 to $80. If you get a good clear shot of it and you get it graded, it's worth it to pay for the grading and take a shot at a 9/8.
Definitely.
So talk a little bit about the Ice Cream Man character and why this book sort of took off the way it did.
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those books where it just kind of everybody that reads it loves it. I mean, if you want, you can kind of boil it down to like being like the Tales from the Crypt TV show, where it's the main character, the Ice Cream Man, in this kind of world where he interacts with other people and their stories going on. So, I mean, it's not an ensemble book. It's not like a team book. It's not like the same thing. You know, you get a different story each issue. And the Ice Cream Man's in it and helps.
And he's creepy.
Yeah, he's a creepster. Yeah. Well,
it's almost,
yeah, it's a creepy.
It's almost like those clown films, like It, right? Where
yeah.
right? Where like the clowns, like if you read this book, you'll probably be afraid of the ice cream man afterwards.
Maybe. I mean, there's not many left. I think only around New York City. Maybe.
Yeah, they have them here. They have them here.
Yeah. But I mean, the covers for this run are also amazing. Like they do all kinds of different fun covers. I mean, there was a Dr. Seuss type cover recently. Like they have a good time with this book.
Very, very clever on the covers. They do these homage type covers of things that you wouldn't normally expect to see an homage of.
Yeah.
And they're very, very cleverly done.
Yep.
So I give Martin Morazzo a lot of credit there. Okay. Alex, I think that does it for today. If you think we missed anything or you want to chat with us, just put it in the comments field, and hopefully we'll take it up on a future show. And thank you guys for listening and watching. And we will see you next week. Same bat time.
Same bat channel. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody.